Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the students who are joining me here at the Foundation in our classroom. And good evening to those of you online who are joining us for tonight's Wednesday night class with Guy Finley. Welcome. My name is John. If you're new here online, welcome again. Our Wednesday class is what we call Discovery Wednesday, in which we have an opportunity to look at a topic with Guy and to discuss and share and to really try to understand what is it behind this topic and how can we use it and what can we see within ourselves in our daily lives through this topic. So it's a great opportunity for us to learn together. Guy will give a talk that lasts about 60 minutes, and then after that talk, we'll take a 5-minute break and then come back for an open discussion in which those of you online and the students here in the room, you have a chance to ask questions of Guy, to share impressions, and together we work to weave a little richer tapestry, I think is another way to describe it, a deeper understanding that we all share. And so I hope you can stay for the full class. It'll last about 90 minutes this evening. When it comes time for the participation, I'll tell you a little bit more about the details if you're uncertain about that. But during the broadcast, if you have any technical issues, feel free to drop us a line in the comment areas on your different forums, and we'll get back to you and try to help you out if needed. Finally, for the students in the room, just a reminder to check your cell phones. If you have one, please make sure you turn it off. All right, we're ready to begin. Here is tonight's topic and the key lesson for this evening. The topic is stop reliving your past and realize real life. And here is our key lesson. It's impossible to see, let alone walk the indefinable path of the present moment until we realize we've been deceived into looking at virtually every moment of life through the eyes of the past.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, and of course, welcome to everyone joining us wherever you are in the world, whatever day or time it is. I'm glad that you're here. We always do our level best, both the speaker and the students who are here, to create a healthy environment, a field in which, if we're attentive, we might be able to see some things that we've never seen before, things that are true. You know, when you see something that's true, there's no skyrocket that goes off. There's just a sudden recognition that there's something so much deeper that I've yet to understand. And at the same time that momentary longing for the divine is stirred, for that split second, it seems that that's all that matters. I see this group of people, I see this situation, I see this relationship. And in the moment when I'm seeing it, if I'm not captured by a judgment, and by the way, because we're going to talk about this quite a bit, there's no judgment without memory. There is no judgment of anyone or anything without memory. Memory being the instantaneous comparison of who you believe you are and conditioned to imagine yourself versus those who you see that aren't like you. And in that moment when that longing is there, it seems like nothing's more important, and then in less than a heartbeat, one day you'll see it, you'll have more of your own attention, you'll be able to stay in the presence moment, meaning in this observer-observed relationship where life, its activity, and what it's acting on are a singularity, so that the intelligence of the moment is making the choices for you. And you really do have what one student was saying about this effortless life. It isn't really that it's effortless, it's that you're free from making choices again. It is a nightmare to make choice after choice after choice after choice. We don't know it yet because for us, freedom is connected to the idea of choice. It's so upside down one day you'll faint. Honest to God, you will. That I believe that my freedom is that I can choose this or that. No, the minute that you're stuck between yes and no, want and not want, you're in the midst of a consciousness struggling with itself, trying to figure out how to get what it wants or escape what it doesn't. And there's no such thing, no escape that way. I was down in LA for some business in a way. I was playing as a celebrity in a Tunnels to Towers charity event. And I know some men down there that I've met, men and women that I've met in other events who are interested in the ideas. Out of the 400 people that are there, there's exactly 2 1/3 person who want to sit next to me at all, which is fine. And they'll be in pain and they'll ask something true, and I'll tell them something true. And you can see there's an epiphany, a little light goes on, and with God as my witness, 2 minutes later, it's gone. It was like and it's exactly like that. I've talked to you before, what happens when I didn't plan to have this here, but lo and behold, here it is. It's just that moment. And that everything lights up and I see. And the next minute I'm blind again. And I don't know that I don't see. This is the extraordinary thing. Because I'm convinced that what I'm experiencing and the sensations connected to the evolving moment, I believe that all of those sensations are in fact my life and that I can see everything good and grand coming my way. And I can't wait to be in conversations with people about a time to come. And I have no notion whatsoever that all of those moments that I call a time to come belong to a memory. They don't belong to who I am, to who you are. They belong to a certain conditioned body, a memory of oneself. And all memories, by the fact that they remain constantly being regurgitated, means that they are incomplete. That nature never finished the moment in which something was brought up to be realized, and instead of it being realized, it became reconfigured. It became something other than what the moment was intended to produce in terms of the transformation of that consciousness. And in the moment of its reconfiguration, it's incomplete. And that bit remains incomplete in that mind, and it's a disturbance. You know, you've heard the expression, a stone in my shoe, yes or no? There is a stone in the soul. And the stone in the soul is all of this unfinished business. And not the unfinished business of separate events, but the unfinished business of a consciousness that believes that by revisiting and reimagining something, that out of the revisitation and reimagining, that sense of self proves I'm real and that I have a real life. And it is the antithesis of that. And you can even show that. You can talk. You can let people see. They'll even say, I see it. And then what happens? Which is our topic tonight. Euphemistically, the word is we go to sleep. What's the nature of this sleep? What is the nature of, Christ said you couldn't hang out for 20 minutes while I was going through this major event changing humanity's course. You couldn't just stay awake for a few seconds? Why couldn't they stay awake? What do you think those, here's the point. You and I are those disciples. Just as Christ lives within us, so are the disciples that can't stay awake long enough to participate in what the indwelling Christ has intended to help us go to and through so that we can become children, real children of God. What did they go to sleep in? Anybody want to venture a guess? What did those disciples, they didn't physically go to sleep. They went to sleep in imagination. They went to sleep thinking about their importance, thinking about what everything means, because he was supposed to liberate us from the yoke of the Romans, and here we are. Now he's agreed he's going to go die. How can the king of the Jews, how can a king save us if he's going to give up his life? So you can imagine all of the things that we're going through. So what were they actually involved in other than forgetfulness? Because that's where you and I fall down all the time. I just forget. Not only do I forget that I'm not here to save anybody. How many of you, I know you think you're here to save somebody. Not only am I not here to save somebody, I can't even save myself. But I can't remember that, and the moment that someone says or does something that sets me off, I believe that they are the crucifier and they need to be reminded of what they're doing to me, so I'm going to heal them with my great wisdom. And how are you doing with healing others around you with your great wisdom? We make enemies of everybody that we try to save. For one thing, do you think you need to be saved? And don't say, yes, you do. Right now in the atmosphere, you might remember, yeah, something's up. But I go to sleep. I forget. And that's what I want to talk to you about, is the nature of this forgetfulness. Because like everything else, I can't do it for you, but I can set the stage, produce a new impression by which you might see for a moment what it is that you don't see yet. Isn't that what awakening is? To suddenly see something I didn't see. And if I really see something I didn't see before, in the very fact that I see something I didn't before, I realize I was blind. So at some point it begins to dawn on me, what if I'm actually blind? What if forgetfulness is the same as being blind? You following me? Because it is. I say something to someone I don't want to say. Do you ever say cruel things? Do you ever say something that you think is well-intentioned and it turns out to be a torment to somebody? Yes or no? Well, how in the name of God can I be a person who believes that what I'm doing and saying is helpful when it's putting that person through hell? Because I'm not present. I have forgotten what it means to be a real human being, alive in that moment, because I'm busy being, reminded in that moment of who and what it is that I should be so that I can help you become as I imagine you should be. Do you understand the sentence? So let's get into it. We're going to build a list tonight like we always do, but this is every Wednesday. I intend, when we have Discovery Wednesdays, to make it a completely different kind of discovery so that you don't fall into the sleep of believing, oh no, not again. Do you know when you're bored? Do you know why you're bored? Anybody? I can tell you why. Because you have forgotten what it means to be alive. No living being is bored. How can that which is constantly being given a new life and being brought through the disturbance of actually recognizing that they're being asked by what is revealed in them to release it, how can all of that ever be boring? Can't, can it? And yet what? I get bored. Here's two friends, old friends, and once a week on Fridays, they go out for a few drinks. They've been doing this for a long time, and they always go to roughly the same roadhouse. Ow. They go to the same roadhouse, and they sit there. And every Friday night for like the last year, when they sit down and they toss down whatever they do, Chablis, they throw down some kind of alcoholic beverage. At one point, one of them starts complaining to the other. And what she always complains about to her friend is that jukebox that they've had has been playing the same songs for as long as we've been coming here, and probably longer than that. You know how you get going, right, when you're complaining. Right, Chrissy? Right. Yes. So big complaint over and over how tired she is of the same old music and what's wrong with them. And finally, her friend, who's been listening to this for like millennia, says to her, I think you're right. She's not going to fight with her anymore. I think you're right. They just opened a new place about 2 miles down called Jilly's. Let's go to Jilly's because I heard they got a 2024 jukebox. It doesn't even have records in it. Imagine. It's digital. Her friend looks at her and says, no. No. No? What do you mean no? Why not? What if I don't like any of the songs on that jukebox? Sounds silly, doesn't it? Do you know what? Let's start our list right now. Take a deep breath. Let's get into it. Let's help each other. Everyone out there in the world, you are invited to send in your, as you'll see what the list asks for your suggestions and comments and observations. Here's the list we're building. Name one or more of those same old songs that you know all too well, those disturbing thoughts and feelings that once triggered by some random thought or event causes your mind to start singing about some familiar unresolved event, and where that painful memory keeps replaying itself, even though while it's doing it, you swear you'd give anything in the world to turn it off. Do you get the picture here? The same old song, the same old experience. And it plays itself over and over and over again. And God help us, and we need help. We can't wait to share the thing that we don't want with someone else. Please, I'm asking, is it not extraordinary? So name one of those same, and you get the idea, same old song, yeah? So I've got a couple. I like to prime the pump. Here's the first, and then we'll get right over to our board. The first of those same old songs, You Done Me Wrong. You Done Me Wrong. And there actually was a country and western song, speaking of same old song. She was a T-bone talking woman with a hot dog heart. Meaning she fooled me. She looked like she was everything she was supposed to be, and lo and behold, she had a hot dog heart. And it bunned me in. Never mind. Oh. How about this for the same old song? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Isn't that an old song? How often does that happen? Something happened. Same old song. I missed my opportunity. Okay, over to you in the room. Roger's right up there right away. I've got some more if we don't get enough going. Roger, then Charlie. And again, you're invited. What are some of the same old songs? How about, oh no, what's going to happen to me? Isn't that an old song? Roger.
You just don't know what I've been through.
The same old song. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Now, Roger doesn't say it like that, but that's the old song, isn't it? I have suffered in ways that you cannot imagine, and just let me tell you a few of those that I don't want to ever go through again, and I go through them again as I'm sharing them with you. Charlie.
Here we go again.
Here we go again. You'll see, there is a song for every one of those things because they're connected to this unconscious nature. Over on the board, we're getting some one. Yeah, this is a pretty one. I need to do something about this. How about this song? Do you believe it? I can't believe it, Nick says. I still can't believe it. Robert, this is never again. Never again. Randall, replaying, yeah. I'd like to run the old mistakes that I've made, believing that if I just relive them enough times, somehow, whatever the pain is from way back then, it's going to disappear. What is the pain I'm in when I'm reliving a mistake, other than my consciousness has brought something up, and it is revisiting the very thing that it resists while it does that, and then it goes, why do I have to go through this? Again, yes or no? Rebecca, by the way, all of us who've been working together for a while, you know that some of these people, and we know them well, they're going to actually say the same old song. Are they not? Rebecca, I picked the wrong career. Oh, Claudia and a host of others. How about this one? They always do that. They always do that. Why do they? Why do they do that? Yes or no? I was rapping for you. Wayne.
Really?
What?
Really?
Yeah, that's a good song. How many of you hear that? Really? Paul. Nobody loves me. What's wrong with them? It can't be me. That's an impossibility. Ellen, I know your song. Let's have it. Oh, it's a different one.
Nothing ever works out.
No, that's right, what I knew. Nothing ever works for me. God has it in for me. I don't want to miss this. I'm missing. Susanna, why didn't I speak up at that time about that one? Why didn't I speak up at that time, huh? And this is a big one. What's wrong with me? Please understand what I'm trying to convey to you. That's an old song. And you never stop singing it, or more accurately, as you'll see, it's not you singing it. It's you in some strange dark karaoke bar looking at a screen and standing up there with a cocktail in your hand and singing whatever it is that runs across the screen. I have a whole story about that coming up after this. Babs.
Why do they have to be that way?
Why do they have to be that way? Namita, I need to do something to be in the right situation. This is a long song, Namita. I need to do something to be in the right situation and place to grow faster spiritually. No, here's the song, Namita. And you know this. She's been here. She's friends, right? What's taking so long? I don't belong in my own mind, let alone with others who are mindless, not like me. Jill, this is a big one. Why don't people appreciate my goodness? Because my goodness, I am good. Eric. Still didn't hear it. Oh, yeah. And this is all under that category. Just daydreaming. And all daydreams in the effort. Boy, let's just make a quick connection before we go back to the board. All daydreams, I'm going to talk about this river of dreams coming up shortly. All daydreams are what? An unconscious way in which I contribute to being forgetful. Because I am distracted by the pleasure or pain, because daydreams aren't always autographs and sunglasses, are they? I am attracted to a very distinct sense of myself that is connected with the way my mind is meeting this moment and trying to figure out how to free me or avoid it otherwise, plans or pain. Okay, over in the, yes, Jane.
Who's sorry now?
Who's sorry now? Yeah. I don't know and I don't want to know. Anybody else in the room? Wayne.
Why can't I understand you?
Why can't I understand you? Me? Yeah. What's wrong with me that I don't understand? And this is because, talk about a daydream, because everyone else seems to understand. No, everyone else is in that state of forgetfulness as we are in that state of forgetfulness. But the task, if I actually start to know it. Have you ever said something that really hurt anybody? Everybody has. And then maybe by the grace of God, you actually saw what happened when you did that. Or if you didn't actually see what happened, you realized afterwards that something had your mouth and spoke a certain set of words in a certain way. And if you could, in quotes, you would take it back. And then you say to yourself, what? I'm never going to do that again. And then you do it again. Why? Let's get into it. Is there anything else on the board? No, that's probably enough. Everybody gets the general drift here. And are these not the same old songs? Now let's bring it into our day-to-day life. We all have been to doctor's offices. What do you do in a doctor's office? No. If you actually were waiting, you would understand that waiting means being present to everything in me that doesn't want to be here waiting. Because I'm an important person, I've got places to go, things to do, and what's with the doctor, what makes him so special? And on top of it, I have to pay him. I actually had this thought just last week in a doctor's office. You know what? They should pay their patients for every 5 minutes they have to wait over their waiting time. Come on, you want to put that on? I'm the President of the United States. Mayor of Grants Pass? Why do I have to wait? Now, back to our topic on Sunday. If I'm sitting there full of negativity about waiting, am I not passive in that moment to a negative state that is saying, why am I not being treated the way I need to be? But do I not feel active when I'm negative? See, that's the point. I feel very active when I'm stirred up. And I fail to see that the only reason I'm stirred up in any given moment is because there is an unseen process of comparison taking place in that same moment. I'm sitting in the office. I, who am this, that, or the other, and have valuable things to do, should never have to wait on anyone, let alone anything, because if they knew how important I was, this wouldn't happen. Comparison. The way I imagine things should be compared to the way they actually are. And that's conflict, isn't it? Because I can't change the office situation in a doctor's place. But yet I am in a tremendous state of conflict trying to figure out, in quotes, with my mind, what I need to do. And I've done this myself so many times. Have you ever gotten up after you've been someplace? I have. 40 minutes you're there, and you go and you say, you know, I've seen at least 3 people come in that came in after me. Yes or no? And they look at you like, so? And you don't know that they're going to see other doctors or that they had an appointment prior to yours and that the doctor, a lot of times I've heard, well, there was an emergency. And then you say, I don't care about no emergency. I just want what I want. Yes or no? So I'm in the doctor's office, and all I'm doing is letting a mind asleep to itself give me things to think about. You can just be sitting at a traffic light, and your mind will fly over to this person, the way they're dressed, to the lights taking too long. The simplest thing. You didn't give your attention to that man on the street. Your attention was taken and placed on some object by a mind that when its attention went to that object, it already had a reaction in mind. That's why it took you there, so that there could be a corresponding familiar sense of self and the same old song. You drive down the street, mind looking left and right. And God help us, how many of you know when you're driving down the street, most of the time you're not in your car, you're in some daydream or judging someone or something, or worse, trying to figure out what to do about a problem that you had before you got into the car. Yes or no? And it's absolutely unconscious to us that this mind can't wait to sing the same old song, because the sense of self is so intrinsically wrapped into those thoughts and feelings, those reactions, that it is comfort. This is the contradiction. Why did that woman not want to go to that place? Why? Because she was sick of the songs. And yet, as sick as she was of the songs, when it was offered to her to go someplace else where there may be some new music, she didn't want anything to do with it. Why? Because she wants the sense of self that's unhappy. What other explanation is there? So why is it that I'm actually reliving something? Why can't I see that something in me that says it doesn't want that to have happened can't wait to relive it so that I can have the sensation of myself one more time as somebody who got done wrong? I'm not saying people don't do us wrong, but do you know why people do you wrong? Because they're in the same dream. They're reliving what they're reliving and blaming you for the experience, just like we blame them for the experience of what it's like to be around these people. And the blind shall lead the blind, and both shall fall in a pit, said Christ. Transition. I want you to see it. Can reliving an unwanted memory, do we have unwanted memories? Can reliving an unwanted memory ever free you from the pain of reliving that memory? I want to be very certain. What shall I pick? Somebody betrayed me deeply. We've all had that. In spades, some of us. Deep betrayal. Virtually every moment that I'm, without knowing it, occupied by some stream of thought prior that is trying to figure out how to free itself from its own reaction, any condition can trigger some corresponding association in this unconscious mind. And when it does, in that split second, without, how do I say, please, painful memories are not beckoned by you. You do not call up a painful memory. But you are a captive of an unconscious matrix, a certain system that is so intimately connected to those memories that when they come up, we've just become part of that domino fall. Because I'm used to the sensation, and listen, I'm used to the sensation produced by my own mind revisiting some scene where I became a victim, and then I believe that if I stay long enough at the scene of that crime, somehow or other the crime's going to get undone. So the longer I'm there in that unwanted memory, the stronger the pain of that memory grows, yes or no? And the more I struggle to figure out how to escape it, the more resistant I am to an experience produced by my own mind. And as the resistance mounts, what else mounts? The sensation of myself, who's a victim, who's been captured by something I don't want. And yet there I am, without knowing it, 100% complicit in the unfolding of the same old song. And I'm singing along. I sat at a somewhat high affair, I suppose you'd call it, at a very shishi golf club with men and women, executives, a lot of big money around. You know what everybody talks about? They talk about the past, and they talk about what they're going to do and where they're going to go. And that's it. Because that's all human beings have to talk about. That's all. You just have to see it someday. So here I am, and this painful memory comes up. And if you've understood it, I didn't bring up the memory. I didn't bring up what he did to me. I didn't bring it up. It was regurgitated. And by the way, and the more that happens, the more common it happens, the quicker it is for us to fall into that relationship with what I've called a memori. Remember I talk about a memori? That there's a certain sense of self connected to every memory. And that every one of these memories holds in it the emotion, the conditions, the circumstances, the associations. And the more that we live those memories, the more associations are built into them so that they become more real, not less real. And the pain becomes more vivid as opposed to us understanding how the vividness of that pain is the proof that I didn't bring it up. And yet by that time I'm caught in this loop of resistance. And of course, the more I resist the very thing that I'm complicit with, the more I want to blame others for the pain that I'm in. So can we be clear about that part? I'm visited all the time by memories. Do you understand the world worships memories? It worships memory. Do I have to explain that, or can you see that a little bit? It doesn't matter, good memory, bad memory. All that it wants, now listen, is to have that mistaken sense of self that is inescapably connected to the sensation of myself when I have that memory. This is all men and women know. That's all they know. And here's the thing. Try to see this with me. A memory begins with what? What does every memory begin with? A thought. Every memory begins with a certain trigger that produces, if you want, some sensation. And the minute that that sensation is there, this mind wants to know what it is. I can't have a disturbance that I don't know what it's about. I need to specify the source of this suffering. Yes? And then it believes it begins to investigate the source of the suffering. When the thing that's investigating the source of the suffering was produced by the suffering. Which means it isn't I investigating some state of myself. It is a state of myself creating a certain I, and then that I believes it can escape itself by doing what the other part of itself, its opposite, says, here's what needs to be done, what you need to consider. And yes or no, the more you relive these memories, do they get better or worse? Do they get stronger or weaker? I have to put this in. The thinker believes that the thought is other than itself. So here's a thought about what happened. And the minute the thought about what happened come up, and I didn't bring it up. It was regurgitated. The minute the thought comes up, in order for that thought to have meaning, it has to have a thinker. It has to have something that believes it's other than that thought. Here's the thought, the painful thought. That painful thought can't be me. And if it is me, I have to be something other than that to get rid of it. So that this nature all the time has these thoughts come up, and then let's bring up, it revisits a memory. When you're revisiting a painful memory, do you not believe that the you who is revisiting is other than the memory you're revisiting? Yes or no? I mean, why else would I revisit a painful memory unless I believe if I think it through, I'll get rid of it? So I actually believe that I, who am suffering this painful memory, is somehow other than the painful memory I'm suffering, and you're not. They are a singularity. They are one thing that this unconscious mind produces constantly, where in order to bring up this very familiar sense of ourself, which it loves to do, it will just agitate the bejeebies out of itself. Without naming names, I was with some people, again, over the weekend. And invariably, and much to this one man's credit, he'd go through a sudden, what word shall I use? A moment of heat. You understand, some kind of, if not outwardly expressed, some explicitive directed towards people who were not of the same ilk as himself. Now, do you remember my story about the monkeys and the zookeeper? And how in the end, when the monkeys wouldn't do what the zookeeper wanted him to do and felt the agitation of the zookeeper, that the monkeys started throwing the bananas at the zookeeper? And what did the zookeeper do when the monkeys got mad at him and threw their bananas at him? What did he do? He threw the bananas back at them, and they both went to their separate places, right? One seemingly outside the monkey cage, and the other one inside the monkey cage. Is anyone outside the monkey cage? But aren't you sure pretty much everyone's an ape? No, honest to God. No culture, no class. They just weren't, they're just missing something. On the other hand, I who know what's wrong with you because a part of myself, a memory of myself, not really me. The zookeeper goes in there thinking he's going to straighten everybody out because he's of a superior intellect. Is a zookeeper of a superior intellect if he throws the banana at the monkey that doesn't do what he says? Is he? Or are they of the same intellect? See, no, we don't want to see that. That's exactly what happens to us all the time. So let's get into how we can understand this and begin to change the way we work, okay? Nice deep breath, new story. Same two people as were there at the bar before. Only a year has gone by because one of them got another job. And the one who comes to visit is not the one who was always complaining about the jukebox. So when they say, where do you want to go? She's expecting the other person to say, well, let's go to that place that I can't stand going to. But she doesn't. She says, let's go to Jilly's. Really? That's great. They go there and how should I say, it's a karaoke bar. You know what a karaoke bar, the reason this whole thing came to me, like I could see that we don't think to ourselves that we're on an endless stage with an endless screen with lyrics on it, that we are always singing as the lyrics appear. And we believe that we're the one creating the lyric and the song that we're singing. We're not. It literally is like a scroll, a giant, planet Earth is a giant karaoke bar. You will see it. I swear to you, you will see it. When you're talking to people, haven't you yet seen that when you speak, for the most part, you are looking at lines that appear on the screen in your mind, and you're reading them connected with the emotion produced by that reaction? Yes or no? It's a karaoke bar. So they go there, and there's a karaoke bar, like it's always been, with a jukebox and all the rest of that. But her one friend, she's just so completely different. I mean, really different. So different that she finally says to her, you know, I'm stunned. What's happened to you? You're nothing like the person you were last year. She said, well, do you remember last year that you kind of got upset with me because I didn't want to go to the new place? She said, on the way home, I could hear this song in my head. And the song that was going on in my head was one of the songs from the old jukebox that I don't like. Have you ever started singing a song and you couldn't stop singing it? When you started it, you were kind of with it, and then suddenly just, God, stop. Stop. Now, why does the mind sing a song that it appears to be enjoying, and yet the more it goes on, the more troubled you are by it? Do you understand what I'm getting at? She said, I was on my way home, and my mind was singing that song from the happy hour, and it was driving me crazy. And not only that, she said, but I don't know if you remember this, how the waiter padded our bill, added 3 or 4 drinks that we didn't even buy. If I hadn't checked, we would have paid more money. I do remember that. And do you remember how upset I was? I do. Well, that was part of what I was singing on the way home. What's wrong with people? Why do they do that? What's kind of world? So my mind was going back and forth between agitation, singing the song I didn't like, and being agitated with remembering what went on. She said, and as I was doing that, I actually had a split second where I don't know how it happened. It was the Lake Kitchikumi. I don't know what lake I'm talking about. You know that beautiful lake where the moon was setting on that lake and that light was there and it was sparkling. She said, and for a split second I sat and I thought, God, I don't think I would have even seen any of this beauty if my mind had kept singing what it was singing. If it kept singing the same old song. I realized there was no way I could see anything around me as long as my attention was concentrated on the same old song within me. It was impossible. And so I vowed on the spot, because it was shocking, that from that moment on, I was no longer going to sing the same old song. And she said, and 3 minutes later, my mind was saying, I'm not going to sing the same song. I'm not going to sing the same song. I'm not going to sing the same song. And there I was, singing the same song. She said, it shocked me to death. And I really began to struggle because I started to see that what I call my life, and I've never seen it before, at least I begin to suspect it, what I call my life is one great karaoke theme. You say it's not. You walk into a room in your own house or a restaurant or you're with people. You don't think the mind is saying the same old thing, only it might be slightly different. Gee, this is great, what a great day. Oh, what a terrible day. Either way, whether it's a great day or not a great day, where is all of that reaction and the sensation of oneself coming from? Comparison. So she said, I started to realize that, and I have to tell you, she said, it's not really a lot better, but I understood something I didn't understand before, and this is the purpose of this talk. I wanted to have a real life. I didn't want to spend the rest of my time reliving a life. Because what am I reliving other than mostly what I don't want? Sparsely populated with memories and pictures and things like that I do want to offset the song that I don't want. But even the ones that I do want are part of a song, because they bring up the same sensations in me. Look, I know this is tough. Whenever I start talking in any particular direction, I understand. You want to take everything from me? How can a person not have that? Listen to this. How many of you know the story of Lot's wife in Genesis? Do you know it? If you don't, in the Old Testament, there's a story about Los Angeles and Portland. There's a story about about places that have gone really bad. Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, I know that we don't know this, but the words Sodom and Gomorrah, they all have a specific meaning in the Aramaic language. I'm not going to go into it now. And in one of those cities was a man named Lot. And he had a wife who, even though they never named her in the Old Testament, it said her name was Edith, which also has a certain meaning. And the angels came to Lot and said, you got to go, because God's going to obliterate this place. And it's a long story. Well, what if there's some good people here? You can't do that. All right, find 10 good people. He couldn't. Find 5. He couldn't. Find me 1. Nope. Now, he wasn't referring to in the city that there might not have been some good people there. This is all an interior story. The whole thing is an interior story. So the angel says, take your wife and family and go to this high mountain up there. And without going into the whole mishmash, turns out that was a pretty high place. And they said, well, we don't think we can get there, but we can reach the middle ground. In other words, we can at least leave this place and enter into a place where we have a new view of the old place, a new understanding of what we've been and done up until now. Not a song that keeps singing itself like, gee, one day Portland, LA, whatever it is, one day these cities won't be this way. One day this world won't be the way it is because human beings are going to rally together and produce a beautiful, peaceful haven. No, they will not. They cannot, because no memory can see the real fact of the present moment. So there's no intelligence guiding. There's just memory, eating memory, eating memory. So Lot says, okay. And he takes his wife and they start to head up. Now the angel said, no matter what, do not turn around and look behind you. Now, what does that mean? Do not turn around and look behind you. Popular religious ideas say it's because, the blast was so great it blind you. No. Do not look to who and what you were when you're headed up to the next level of yourself. Because to turn around and regret or otherwise wish that you didn't have to leave that is going to produce resistance to the movement towards the new note. And that whole idea of resistance is in fact what happened when Lot's wife, feeling it was too great of a burden, turned back around. Resistance turned her around to what she didn't want to leave, and she was turned into a pillar of salt. Resistance crystallizes the nature that embraces it. Resistance crystallizes. Isn't that what a memory is, a painful memory? Doesn't it become crystallized? And doesn't my response to that memory become crystallized so that it's more and more automatic? Do you see it, yes or no? You look at everything that went up on the board, and every last one of those things is connected to a certain state of resistance that produces an insistence, a sense of self that is derived from the very thing that we say we don't want. So Lot's wife did what? She turned around. Later in the New Testament, in Luke, I think, Christ is talking to his disciples. And without going into the pre-story, he said to them, because they were saying, well, I'd come with you, but I've got stuff in the barn. I've got things to do. And he followed up with, he said, remember Lot's wife. And then he said, whoever tries to save his life will lose it, but whoever will lose their life will preserve it. Do you understand what he's saying? I don't want to lose who I've been. I don't want to leave it behind me. I want people to love me, and I want to be loved the way I imagine I should be loved, and I'm going to punish the people who don't love me because they deserve punishment. And our mind is filled with an unending stream of thoughts, reactions to conditions, so much so that it never dawns on us that every one of these thoughts does not exist apart from what that thought represents and the sense of self that believes it's other than what it's thinking about. Do we not believe, as I said earlier, that we believe we are different than the memory we're suffering? And you're not different than the memory you're suffering. But to understand that is to begin to recognize the saving grace. Something wants to relive this. Something wants to revisit the very thing that makes me feel like a victim. And if I see that totally, clearly, I can't contribute to that relationship. I have to lose my life. And that's what it's going to feel like. I'm going to have to give myself up. Here's I'm with somebody and they can't stop judging everybody. Every 2 minutes, judge, 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 judge. Now, when people are negative and they're judging others, what do you do? Yes. Yes. Yeah, instantaneous judgment. What's wrong with them? Doesn't he know to be as spiritual as I am? I who don't judge. So it just goes on in this unseen stream of unconscious thought, where all the time, getting to the exercise now, which I hope you're ready for, all the time doing what? Here's a disturbance. How many of you know you'll be disturbed if you're not already disturbed just listening to me? Here's a disturbance. What's the first thing that happens when I'm disturbed? I turn around and I look at the thoughts that I believe are different than the me that feels the disturbance. Instantaneously, I'm Lot's wife. I turn around. We fall into thought. You fall into a memory. It is not deliberate. I'm not saying please, I get tired of saying this. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't have memories. I'm not telling you that when you look at the picture of your dog or your children or someplace you've been, I'm not telling you there's anything wrong with that sensation. But I am telling you that when that mind brings that up so it can have the sensation, it's doing so to escape itself. And you need to be discerning enough to recognize the difference. We're human beings. We have friends and family. We go to places. But I swear to you that one day you'll understand that when you go someplace and are doing things, your task is not to hear the same old song every time he does that same old thing and she says the same old thing. Because it's always the same old song, isn't it? Gosh, you go into a place like Christ said to the man who took the high place in the wedding. He said, you shouldn't take in this high seat. You should take the low seat. When you and I go someplace, do we not think the wedding is in our honor? At a restaurant, maybe you're not that way. I don't know. But most of us, I can tell you, believe that everything and everyone, wherever we go, should be serving our interests first and foremost. That's a dream. And by the way, the proof it's a dream is when it doesn't happen, all we do is get negative, and then we believe that our negativity proves how superior we are. What do you think the exercise is? Don't look back. Don't look back. Now, just like the hero in the story, Our Lady, the heroine story, she couldn't stop, but she began to see that she was doing it. And the more clear it became to her that she was being tempted to give her attention to something that even as she gave it was causing her pain, apparently whatever it is that's taking my attention is not in my interest. It must be serving something else. And it is. It's serving itself. Serving the continuity of a certain familiar sense of self, and that's all it wants. And it doesn't care what it does to this nature. Don't look back. Here's the disturbance, the blast, don't turn around. Meaning don't turn around and look to thought to rescue you. Don't turn around and hope that some memory is going to save you from revisiting the thing that makes you a victim. It can't. Nothing in your past can be resolved by visiting it in the present moment. But seeing yourself being drawn into the past in the present moment will give you the strength you need to lose your life in order to gain it. We communicate a little bit. Let's take a break. We'll come back and have our dialogue.
Welcome back, everybody. We're about ready to begin part 2 of our class, which is our open discussion with Guy. But before we do so, I have a couple of things I'd love to just remind you about. The first is which is I just want to put in an invitation, a plug, so to speak, for you to, if you haven't already, to sign up for our weekly newsletter, our Life of Learning Foundation weekly newsletter. It's a great little mailing that comes out once a week in your email, and it tells you about news and events here at the foundation. There are inspirational quotes and articles in it, special discounts and offers, and if you sign up for it, you also get immediate access to one of Guy's books, an ebook, The Freedom from the Ties That Bind. It's a great opportunity to stay connected to the foundation. And you can do that if you haven't signed up for it. Just go to guyfinley.org/newsletter, and we'd love to have you on our mailing list. Then, second reminder, again, as always, thank you for your support for our mission. We are, again, a nonprofit organization, the Life of Learning Foundation, and it is your help throughout all these years that has made it possible for us to share these ideas in all the forums that we do and in all the manners that we try to reach as many people as possible. So thank you to those of you who are supporting us regularly, and we encourage those of you who aren't to perhaps we would love to have you join us. So just go to guyfinley.org/donate if you're interested. And again, all of donations are tax deductible here in the US, and they do so much to help us spread this work. And thank you very much for that. All right, I think we're ready to go back to the classroom and check in with Guy and see if he's ready to begin our discussion. Anything you'd like to say, Guy?
Just one quick comment, because I didn't get the last of those internet students posting. Phil, he said that his same old song is, "I'm so unworthy." You have to be able to, in some respects, learn to think with your heart. Your heart has an intelligence in many ways superior to your mind. To think with your heart doesn't mean to think sentimentality, to be sentimental. To think with your heart means to find in yourself that place that understands without taking thought. If God is good, and God is good, would he, with that almighty intelligence, that perfect love, would it induce me to want to know something about that life? And then, as I've said before, like a mother, would she call her child in for dinner and then slam the door and lock it? Or could it be that there's something innately connected, an act of love itself, for a person to start running into that same old song of, "I'm so unworthy, I'm a mess, I flopped, I did this, I did that, I talk about it, so talk about a same old song. Part of I think St. Paul said it, that it is my weakness is made perfect in your strength. Meaning that it is me gradually recognizing that I always thought, don't you get upset because you think you're worthy? Don't you? Yes, you do. You think you're worthy. Are you kidding me? Why would I have any reaction to anybody questioning me at any level unless I thought I was worthy? So I live from this ideal, this image of myself that I'm a worthy human being. And no sleeping human being has worth in them until they discover that sleep and agree to die to it. Then they are given the value that they were created with, through a relationship that reveals to them. What a silly thing to think to yourself that you're not worthy. Only God is good. So you start to take all the thoughts, and you have no idea. Down the line, wait till the devil catches wind of the fact that you're serious about wanting to know something about Christ's life. Meaning, wait until that unconscious nature, the whole matrix of it, begins to have this drift move through it that wants to challenge its authority. Then you'll start to hear things and see things that'll, you talk about, you will hear this voice. I am the most worthless, unworthy human being that ever lived. What a stupid person I was to ever think that God would ever want to have anything to do with me. I was right. I should have quit before I began. And something in you will hear and see that, and you will know that you are hearing from the darkness itself, because God would never discourage anyone that wants to love him. Would he? Would she? Never. Love never discourages, ever. We just have to be able to remember that. And by the way, Sunday's talk, we'll go deeper into this whole topic, so we'll have more to work with. Now I'm done. Over to you, John.
All right, and we'll get our discussion going. Just a reminder to everyone, for those of you on GoToWebinar, you have the chance to talk directly to Guy, so just click the hand icon on your control panel, and I see we have a couple of people in the queue there, or you can send in a written question, and on Facebook, YouTube, you can do that as well, and I have a handful of those. So we'll get started first with a written question, and then we'll go to our queue. This written question, Guy, came in from our website. It came in from Lucy, and she says, "Hello, Guy. It would be greatly appreciated if you could clarify or give an example of what the following means. We learn by teaching. Every time I hear that quote or comment, it just doesn't make sense to me. How can we teach something we don't know? Thank you."
If you've never heard it before, I've mentioned it, that there is this old native North American Indian idea that says something along the lines of that we are the ones we're waiting for. Now, what does that mean relative to what Lucy's asking? How many of you can see through your work, your understanding, that you have made certain discoveries that, shocking as they may be, could not have been more important for you to make in terms of your character and quality? So I have an epiphany. And in the moment of that illumination, what's being illuminated? Something that was other than myself, or something that was in the dark of myself that didn't know what it was and didn't know its own possibilities? So in that split second, I discovered that within me, if you want to use these words, is the love of God, the love of Christ. Within me is the wisdom of the masters. Within me, all of those things live. But I'm tempted all the time to choose other than to remember them. I'm tempted to forget through all of the things I'm drawn to revisit. So I have this understanding that there is something very much like the kernel of corn that lays in the ground. There is something inside of that kernel that wants to break out. The husk doesn't know anything about the life inside of it. The husk doesn't know anything about the life inside of it. This seed of a man does not know anything about the kernel of celestial wisdom that lives inside of him. But there is a ceaseless disturbance that invites me to see through ultimately what I called wisdom, so that now I can start to be properly passive, so that some activity can occur. And then I discover things. Some of the greatest discoveries in the world are the simplest things of all. You discover that God made you a whole woman, a whole man, whole. Whole. Being whole means that you can have others in your life. And what a blessing it is, because they help polish. But who and what you are does not need the approval of other people. That's the same old song. You don't hear it. I have to win their approval. I have to appear in a certain way. That's one of the same old songs nobody sang tonight. I don't know that song isn't my song until I eventually see how futile it is to try to live and sing that song over and over again, and I never live up to it. So what does it mean? We learn by teaching. I discover something in myself I didn't know was there. I have been taught, yes or no? So now there is a new body of understanding. Now I must take that new body of understanding into my life with me. And I must act from that new body of understanding so that in essence, I am now no longer just the student. I am that which has been taught and now must teach myself more about what I've discovered. And that is the unending process of seed becoming flower, flower becoming seed, unendingly. We would be so lost if there weren't something divinely intelligent inside of us. We were left to our own intelligence, which is why the world is the way it is. You would see you'd see the world the way it is. That's the best I can do with that for now. She says, how can we teach something we don't know? You mustn't teach what you don't know. But you can have new knowledge and then act from that. And let your acting from that knowledge purify the body of understanding. Then you're in this beautiful spiral up instead of a cycle down, turning around. Over to you, John.
All right, Guy, we'll go next to our queue. And before I do that, just a reminder to the students in the room, if you want to speak, just walk up to the mic. But next we'll go to Namita in our queue.
Okay, stay awake, everybody. That's your job. You go into thought for the comfort of it. And in thought is where everything that is uncomfortable. Hi, Namita.
Hi, Guy.
Hi.
These days I have noticed that a lot of the negative thoughts are have reduced significantly, and from your teachings I know not to meddle with them or go into them too much. I just watch them. But now the positive thoughts, seemingly positive thoughts, I need help discerning positive thoughts from, I don't know, useful thoughts, because I keep, for example, these days I feel like maybe I know that a lot of work needs to happen when I come at the foundation. I see that there's a lot of work needs to be done, and then I go into this endless discussion, the song in my mind that maybe I should move closer to the foundation, or the other foundation in LA which I'm associated with. Maybe that will help me see.
It's a mess, isn't it?
It drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's just an absolute mess. Holy Mother of Pearl.
Yeah.
Thank God I'm not Namita. Namita, the mess isn't the world that you are looking at. The mess is a mind that wants to make something of itself and believes that it can. You must give yourself completely to what you love as best you're able to do it. But then you must also understand that giving yourself to what you love is not done with an expectation. That's the hardest thing for us. Everything about our life, all of this ambitiousness, everything comes unseen with an expectation, and there is no expectation that this nature has that isn't an old song. Not one. And it all has to play itself out, Namita. God willing, you have sufficient enough interior resources to recognize, and I think you do because you're still working. I keep trying to save myself. I keep thinking there's something I've got to do, got to go, I'm not on it yet. I'm not there. I'm not positive enough yet. That's hell. But I don't know it's hell because that's the only life I know, and the sensation holds in it at once everything I don't want to be, but connected to what I don't want to be, all of the promise that I will become. And the whole thing has to collapse, Namita. And it can't collapse because of an idea. It can't collapse because of a belief. It has to collapse because Namita starts to recognize she's in a treadmill going nowhere fast, trying to achieve something that Namita will never achieve. Namita's got to go, not what needs to come. And it's the gradual recognition of that. That's what's so amazing in one respect, so simple but yet so complex. Is I keep trying to add something to my life. Just a little more of this, a little bit less of that. Everything the mind, constantly maneuvering, trying to figure out how I can get to a place where it won't be in pain anymore. Unable to see that the reason it's in pain is because it keeps trying to leave a place it created or reach a place it's imagined. And the whole thing has to collapse. And you can't collapse it. But you can see that you can't sustain it. And then begin to die to everything that says, when the disturbance comes, do this, go there, fix that, run there. No. Don't fall into thought. I don't know how many times over 1,000 years I can say the same things. Don't fall into thought. Don't believe in yourself. Completely counter to what the world tells you. And yet at the same time, I can tell you that a lot of you need to believe in yourself. You need esteem. Because you've been so beaten down by the world that you believe somehow or other you're not worthy of anything. That's an equal falsehood. But no one but you can sort that out. Because no one but you suffers from what you are presently. And that's all I suffer from. I suffer from what I don't understand about myself that I believe I do. That's what I suffer from. And the clearer that becomes, the less likely you are to become engaged in trying to figure out how you're going to save your bacon. Because you can't save your bacon. You can't. I speak with urgency, yes? And yet the urgency is that you learn to be patient, which you're not. Well, how can I be urgently patient? By recognizing that any state of urgency that wants to wash over and carry me away is a lie. And it hurts. All urgency hurts. Why? Because it belongs to something that doesn't want to be where it is. It doesn't want to be what it is. It wants some relief from itself. And it creates urgency to prove how important it is that it achieves what it's imagined. On we go, John. Stay close to me. I know you will.
All right, Guy, we'll go next to this written question that came in through YouTube. It comes from Roman, and Roman asks, what if the nature of the mind, and in parentheses he says, always worrying, is a part of what we are? Then what? Will fighting against the hidden side of what you are bring peace?
No. Resist not evil. Love thine enemies. Here's what you don't understand yet. And it's not simple because it's what I am. You are in a world where the whole idea of peace and prosperity and success was connected to the idea of problem solving. So over the millennia, this mind that was intended to be able to use imagination properly, to not become overcome by difficult conditions and to use them, this mind began to think that all I have to do is just sort out what the problem is. And when I sort out the problem, I'll know what the solution is and I'll have peace. Now that mind has gone mad. It is run amok. And what you're seeing in the world is the evidence of a mind that believes it can solve the problems it created by coming up with another solution that seems different than the last one that failed. And we're caught in a mind that can't stop fabricating problems. Honest to God, it makes problems. Why? So it can have something to do. With God as my witness, it makes problems. Now, is there a problem with him doing this or she doing that? With the way that, yes, of course, that's a problem. But where does it have to do with any negative sense of self? It makes problems. If you watch yourself, you'll see it. Oh my God, what time is it? Problem. Solution, thank God my new partner's here. Rush. You can see the whole thing. Problem, I better solve it. Solution, thank God I know now what to do. And then what I know what to do becomes the problem later, and then I'm in the same routine. This mind makes problems so it can be its own savior. And it isn't your savior. On we go.
On we go next to Ivan in the queue. Hi, Ivan. You're unmuted. Hello, Ivan. Are you there?
Hi, Ivan.
Guy,
There you are.
I like your talk. It describes me to a T. I've had things asked me, well, I'm at retirement age, and for years people are asking me, why don't you retire now, And it's that same thing. It's looking back. We don't want to go forward. We want to look back, and then it's the opposites, back and forth, back and forth.
Yes.
Boy, I tell you, there isn't a day. I don't think that I've ever been out of the war yet. I've been constantly in a stupid war, and it's an unconscious war, and it's a war where we're intellectualizing, and we're gonna solve. You just said it. We're gonna solve this problem with another solution, which isn't going to work, which is going to create a problem, and then we oscillate. So,
Yeah. Look, Ivan, you have a
going to work.
You have a good grasp of these opposites, Ivan. The task is to grasp them so thoroughly that you can't be tempted to identify with left or right, positive or negative, so that you remain the observer of the appearance of these opposites. The observer, the awareness of the opposites is a completely different order of intelligence than what we call trying to sort out with our wisdom how to fix this or get away from that. Just hang in there, Ivan. This has its own time. This has its own time.
Yeah.
All right. Good to talk to you. On we go, John.
Okay, Guy, I have a written question. I'll come on to read that. This came in from Susanna tonight.
Okay.
He asks, what should we do when we are tempted to look back and rehash the same old, same old?
You see, the problem to start with, Susanna, is that when we're tempted, we don't think we're being tempted. When my mind wants to revisit something, relive some unwanted moment, I don't think that there's a temptation in that. I see it as the natural evolution of a wish of mine to escape the pain of that experience. Because that mind believes it can escape the experience it creates for itself. So if I see in any way whatsoever that I am, in fact, being tempted to relive, to sing the same old song, and if you want a general way of looking at it, anytime we're negative, Susanna, and thinking along the lines of what the negativity is saying proves that we're right and they're wrong, anytime I'm caught up in that stream of thought, I'm singing the same old song. And I want to be very clear, because I said I'm singing the same old song, Susanna. It is not you singing that song. It is no one singing that song. It is a song that keeps singing itself since the fall of humanity. It is the constant attempt to span a distance created by thought, by using thought as the vehicle to do so. The only way in which that collapses is when we begin to understand that I don't know what's going to happen to me if I don't sing that song. If I don't revisit this, if I don't look at that again, if I don't count my shekels, if I don't think about this, if I don't do all of that, what will happen to me? And then as you learn to discern the pain inherent in the identification with these things, you'll understand there is a practical way to think. To be spiritual doesn't mean not to be practical. The truth is, the most practical human being in the world is the most spiritual one, because he or she will not waste their energy creating an identity that does nothing but fall apart all the time. And that's what we want to see. This, Susanna, everybody, this is a work about seeing. This is like a school for the blind. It is. Honest to God, that's what it is. And it's only for people who suspect the reason they keep falling down is because they can't see. And if I actually start to see that I can't see, I'm going to be a little more tentative with my steps, won't I? I'll be a little less quick to judge. I'll be a little less quick to throw myself into that memory. I'll actually start to want to be aware more than I want to experience the sensation of myself. So don't ever be discouraged. Don't ever be discouraged. Or more accurately, when you are discouraged, don't sing that song. Because we know that song, don't we? Here's a song. See you later. We'll save whatever is remaining, John, for later at 7:30. Time to go. Good night, everybody. Don't look back.